Good day, everyone. This is Sidnile Fofe of SL Podcast. I'm very excited again to be sharing information with you, the information that is meant to change your life and make you better. We are back again doing what we love to do, which is something that we can do and continue doing. We are really excited when we share information. This is something that we really love to do. And today we are on another important topic which I'm very excited about. We're talking about the darkness of the mind. And with the conversation that I usually have with different people, there are people who will be saying they are blank. They want to change their lives, they want to improve, they want to do things differently, but they just don't know how they can do that. So which means they have blank minds. So they have what I term, because I needed a topic, so which can be a little bit exciting. So they are occupied, or they are still in darkness. There's still gloominess in their views and the way they see things. Even though they have this desire that they can do things differently, they want to start business, but they don't have business ideas. They're just blank. And this is what we're talking about today. And unfortunately, we can't do anything when we are blank. We can't improve on things that we are not aware of. We can't do things which we don't have exposure on. We can say with the mind, we process everything with the mind. And if our minds are still blank, or we don't have a clue on what we need to do, there will be a little bit of a challenge, because we still can't do anything because our minds are blank. We need to fill in our minds with something that we can believe in and we can continuously do until we get it right. It is with our minds again that we see possibilities. If our minds are blank, we can't see any possibility in life. So unfortunately, our lives can't change as long as we are still in the dark. As long as our minds are still preoccupied or occupied with darkness, we can't see possibilities. We can't see the way forward. We can't see our way out of our situations or our way out of our circumstances. So we can't desire what we are not aware of. Our desires are hanging on what we are aware of. This is something that we really need to understand. And we need to process all these things so that we can improve our lives. Things have to be clear in our minds before we can gain access to them. It is very important that we get things in our minds. We need to get exposure. We need to get enlightenment so that the darkness that can occupy our minds can dissipate, and we are illuminated, or now we having things which are clear in our minds. So we really need to understand that darkness has to pave way for the light so that we can have a clear view of where we are going. We can't dream about what we are not exposed to. For us to have dreams, for us to dream bigger, is when we have been exposed to bigger. We can't dream about a better life if we are never exposed to better life. We really can't stay in darkness and expect our lives to improve. This thing can't happen. We really need to be aware of this thing. That's why we can safely say exposure is critical for the ambitious ones. People who are ambitious about life, they need to get exposed to different things. They need to travel a little bit more. They need to talk to people a little bit more. They need to visit people who are successful. They need to visit people who are striving for perfection so that they can get exposure. We need to talk to people and bounce ideas on them so that we can get our enlightenment. Because if we are ambitious or if we want to change our lives and do things differently, we really need to come to a place where we are getting sharper and sharper and having illumination in our minds. But without exposure, we can't get that. We'll stay in the dark and we'll stay in our darkness. And darkness will occupy our minds. And we will be in a position where we want to do things differently, but we just don't know how we can do them differently. That's why a lot of people will be saying, I want to do business, but I don't know where to start or what I can do. And if you are in that space, it is always a good start when you have this desire to do things differently and to make changes that can improve your life. But life doesn't end there. You need to be aware of what you want to do. And it has to be clear. Because you can't make goals. We can't make plans. We can't make action, or we can't do anything if we don't have clarity of what we really want. So if we are still in the dark, there's no how we can make improvements, and it will be detrimental to our lives. And we can't make improvements if we don't know what we want to do. If it is not clear yet, there's no how we can make progress. So when we are in the dark about many things, we are limited in our thinking. This is something that we really need to process. This is something that we need to be thinking about. When we are still in the dark, we can't think about any other thing. We are limited on what we can do, what we can think, what we can process. And it is very important for us to now be aware. If we are still blank, we should know we are still in the dark, and we need to expose ourselves a little bit more so that we can get the light in. As long as we want our lives to improve, as long as we want to do things differently, we need to desire to expose ourselves a little bit to the light. We need to move to the sun a little bit. We need to be attracted to the sunlight, or where there is a little bit of light and illumination, so that we can get the darkness out. Our attainments are limited to what we process in our minds. We can't attain much if we can't process much in our minds. If things are not clear in our minds, we can't do much. We can't attain much. That's why we are saying, if we want our lives to improve, we need to get a little bit of more exposure. We need to get a little bit of more light. We need to get a little bit of more enlightenment so that our lives or our minds can have a little bit of more light, so that we can have something we can process with our minds. And if it is clear, we can attain more. We can push for more, because we'll know what we want, and we'll push for what is clear in our minds. The amount of light that illuminates our mind is important to drive away the limitations and the barriers that can handicap us into nothingness. It is very important to understand that the amount of light, it is very important so that it can illuminate our limitations and our barriers, because failure to do that will drift into nothingness. And unfortunately, we don't need to be part of the statistics of people who were once born and then with no record, and then people who die with no record, because we lived our lives. We journeyed through life in darkness. We really need to be aware that all of us, we start from darkness. We don't know much. And a little bit of exposure will illuminate us and our minds so that we can get light and we can have a little bit of more clarity on what we want and what can work and what cannot work. And the moment we are in that position, we can strive for more. We can break the barriers. We can break out of the limitations that are keeping people in bondage and in limitations. And we can move away. We can get out of nothingness into something. We can improve and we can get better if we allow light to illuminate us a little bit more. And we are getting a quote from the Bible, from the book of Ecclesiastes. And the writer started by saying, I thought. This is what he was thinking. And we need to get into his thinking, what he was thinking about. He said, I thought wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. For the wise can see where they are going, but fools walk in darkness. This is something which is very profound. And it is amazing how wisdom and foolishness is put in the same sentence as light and darkness. It is very amazing. Getting enlightenment is equated with getting wisdom. And when we have wisdom, we know our pathway can be better, or we can track better, or because we'll be illuminated, we'll be having the light. So light is equated to wisdom. When we are enlightened, or when we are aware of the things that work and things that doesn't work in life, we know for sure that we'll be getting wisdom, the wisdom that can help us to make better decisions and to track better and to make advancements in life. We can get better when we are enlightened. And enlightenment, or getting the light in, is equated with wisdom. And it is very important for us to understand that people who walk in the light know where they are going. When we are where there is enough light, we don't trip and fall because everything is clear. We see where we are going. And that's why we are talking about light as a very important thing that we need to be paying particular attention to, because light is equated with wisdom. Those who walk in darkness are bound to fall and trip because it is not clear. Their way is not clear. And unfortunately, darkness is associated with foolishness. So which means if we don't decide to get exposed to the light, we'll be in darkness. And a lot of foolishness will be seen in everything we are trying to do. And for us to take out foolishness or to reduce foolishness, because all of us here and there, we have a little bit of foolishness here and there, but only when we get exposed, we reduce the amount of foolishness that we do. We reduce the amount of mistakes with exposure. The more we get exposed, the lesser will be foolish. It is very important for us to understand some of these things. And traps are easier set in darkness. You can easily trap things in darkness. When people or when things don't have better view, they can easily be trapped. And we need to be aware that if we don't get this thing right, if we don't deal with the darkness that is in our lives, we are definitely going to be caught up with a little bit of more traps. We are going to trip and fall more often because we don't know where we are going and we don't have a clue of what we are trying to do. It is really tragic to go through life in darkness because the only places that we can be taken advantage of is when we are in darkness. If we don't know what we want and where we want to go, and if we are not aware of our surroundings, there are people who are cruel, who will take advantage of you because you don't have a clue of who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. And the only thing that will improve your life and that will stop people from taking advantage of you is when you have the light, when you are illuminated, when you are wiser, because there is a little bit of more light in you than before. But when you are still in darkness, you are going to be taken advantage of. That's why a lot of people will want to keep people in the dark so that they can take advantage of them. And this is something that we need to be aware of. As long as we want our lives to improve, we need to be aware that we have to deal with darkness. We need to get the light in. We need to get a little bit of more illumination into our lives. We need to get a little bit of more enlightenment. We need to get in more information so that we can be better. We can process. We can have something that we can process with our minds, which is very critical. We are gullible when we are in the dark about anything. So people can come and take advantage of us. We are gullible. We can be taken advantage of. We are weak when we are in darkness. And we don't want to fall prey to people who are out there to take advantage of the gullible. We just don't need that, and we really need to make a decision to say, I'll be open to learning, I'll be open to getting the light in so that I can be a little bit wiser and get foolishness out of my life so that I will not be gullible. We can only be taken advantage of when we are kept in the dark. The wiser we become, the lesser we are going to be gullible, and we won't be taken advantage of because we will know what we want and we will have a clear view. Even when we go into negotiations, with clear view of what we want. And we'll be respected because we are knowledgeable or we have the light. We know what we want and where we want to go. We are unsuspecting when we don't know what is happening around us. That's why we really need to be aware that darkness is not our friend. Foolishness is not our friend. We will be unsuspecting and we'll fall into ditches and fall into traps because we won't even have an idea when we go into a ditch. Because when we don't have a view of where we are going, we are unsuspecting. Any road is okay for us, but when we know what we want, we will choose our roads wisely and we will know, I'm not going to go this way because I may fall in a ditch because it is clear that there is a ditch in front of me. So darkness of our minds is a prison cell. We need to be aware that if we are in darkness, or our minds are in darkness, we'll be chained. We won't have freedom to express ourselves and to get to where we want to get to, because this thing is a prison cell. We can't process anything if we are not aware of what we want. We'll be trapped, we'll be limited. This thing is a prison. And unless and until we get out of darkness, we will see our lives improve. Our lives can't improve as long as we are in darkness. That's why we are saying this thing is a prison cell that we need to break out of. It is very important for us to understand that. We need to get enlightenment and enrichment so that we can break away from the cell that we will find ourselves in. It is very important. This leads us to come to this, to say it is very important to make openness to learning top of our priority. We need to make another thing, which is another important point. Being pliable to changing, being top of our priorities. We need to be open to learning, and we need to be pliable. And we need to be ready to make adjustments. What we learn, we put into practice. What we learn, we change so that we can improve our lives. There is no use if we get in the light and we have the knowledge, we have the understanding, but we are just too rigid to change and make adjustments. These are two important things that we need to take note of. We need to be open to learning so that we can get the light on, and we need to be pliable, or we need to be ready, flexible. We need to be moldable so that we can change and become better. It is very important. If we don't do that in our walk of life, we'll be swayed in all kinds of trouble. If we are not open to learning, and if we are not pliable, and if we are not willing to change and do things differently, we are going to be swayed in all kinds of trouble, because we won't have a clear view of where we want to go or where we are going. It is very important. Being deprived of what works is a gateway to foolishness. When we don't know what works, so we know we are treading on dangerous grounds of foolishness. And our lives can improve as long as we are still in the dark. And we need to understand that exposure or lack of exposure is detrimental to our well-being. It is very important for us to understand that. And we are concluding by saying it is very important. We need to allow the unfolding of the right words to keep coming. We need the right words. We need the right insights to keep rolling and unfolding so that we can get illuminated in our minds. It is very important. The only thing that can guarantee us of success or improvement or betterment of everything concerning us is when we get enlightenment and when we get illumination that comes with the right words from the right sources. We need to allow the right words that illuminates us, or that brings in the light, and that will bring in understanding. And when we have understanding about different concepts of life, that's when we can now talk about wisdom, which is application of what we know. And if we apply what we know and we allow changes to happen, we are definitely going to see improvement. We need to keep allowing the right words to keep rolling in from the right sources and allowing understanding. This thing is important. That's why I'm repeating. The moment we have understanding and we are aware of what works and what doesn't work, that is wisdom. And if we apply what we know, we are definitely going to see the changes that are necessary, and our lives will never be the same. This is a very important thing that we need to understand and live with every day. It doesn't matter how simple or broken we might be. That is the starting point for many of us. We come simple and broken. We come from very humble backgrounds where we didn't know much. So it doesn't matter where we started from or how broken we are. As long as we come in contact with the right words from the right sources, and we allow ourselves to learn, to get knowledge and to get understanding, and to do everything in our power to use what we have learned, our lives are going to change. And life is open to everyone who is willing to learn the right things from the right sources and apply them and see the changes that are necessary happening in their lives. Wisdom will for sure lead us in the way to betterment of everything concerning us. It's very simple statement which we need to understand. As long as we get wisdom, wisdom is applying what we know. As long as we put into practice what we have been exposed to, definitely we are going to see the improvement and the betterment of everything concerning us. As long as we walk in the light, we will not stumble, since our paths are well lit. As long as we shun darkness, we shun ignorance, we shun lack of knowledge, we shun all these things, we know for sure, we will not trip and fall because we are walking in the light. We know what we want. We are well aware of things that work and things that doesn't work. And for sure, we are going to not trip and fall because we have the light. We have enough light. Our paths are well lit. It is very important. The darkness of the mind is the tragedy that we should all fight with every ounce of our energy. Our rising and falling is wholly dependent on how much light illuminates our minds. The darkness of our minds is a serious tragedy. We need to understand. And if we understand that the darkness of our minds, when we are not privy to information, when we are not exposed to the right things, we need to know that this thing is tragedy. That's why we need to use everything, every resource we have, so that we can get exposure and we can get understanding. We can get the knowledge that can bring an improvement in everything concerning us. We need to expose ourselves by getting the right information from the right sources so that we can get illuminated, we can get enlightened. And the moment we get enlightened, we know the darkness will dissipate and our lives will get the light, the necessary light. And foolishness will dissipate also while wisdom comes in. And wisdom will help us to use every information that we have and our lives are going to improve, and we are going to see everything concerning us getting better and better and better until we can achieve what we desire and we can live our dreams. Everybody is open to trying this so that they can see their lives getting better and better and better. We should shun darkness and we should love the light. We should shun foolishness and we should embrace wisdom. Thank you.